Dreams. We're all born with them. Dreams of adventure, of finding a sense of purpose, meaning, of reaching our full potential. And wherever your dreams take you, your journey starts with UAC.
Hi, so my name's Allegra Goldman and I am studying a Bachelor of Nutrition Dietetics, so an honours degree at the University of Wollongong.
Hi, I'm Emma. I'm studying at the University of Newcastle and I'm doing a Bachelor of Occupational Therapy that I got in through using a Bachelor of Science.
I'm Melinda Coxall. I study the Bachelor of Oral Health at University of Newcastle at the Ourimbah campus. It's my second degree. I studied previously a Bachelor of Business Management at the International College of Management, Sydney. And then I did the Open Foundation program before I got into the Bachelor of Oral Health at the University of Newcastle.
So I'm Gabriel Walker. I'm in currently my second year studying nutrition and dietetics at the University of Wollongong.
I sort of made the decision to go into nutrition and dietetics in year 11. So it actually was quite, I would say, my only sort of choice in respect. So I was quite lucky in that sense that I wasn't really tossing up between certain degrees. I was quite set in stone, but I guess that kind of came from my past love for sort of food and fitness and health. So I'm also a personal trainer. So I sort of marry those two together and I've started to do that. But in making my decision, I think I really started getting very involved with food and sort of that when I was about like 16. I was quite young, so I was like in year 9 or so. And so I started sort of dipping into research about health and nutrition. I was actually vegan for some time. And so I guess that sort of led me to sort of wanting to discover more about food and nutrition and what it's all about, and not just sort of what you sort of see on face value, find out a bit more behind it.
From a young age in high school, I knew that I wanted to do a degree where I could help people in the end, but I didn't necessarily want to always be in a hospital setting. And then I found about out about occupational therapy through my brother doing it. Um, and yeah, I just found an interest in that and just continued doing it or wanting to do that.
So when I finished school, I didn't really have a clue on what I wanted to do. So I was just traveling for a while, and I actually applied for ICMS to do a business degree while I was overseas still when I was working in California at a summer camp. So I kind of did it on a whim because I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I know I wanted to do something and I just wanted to start. So I thought a business degree would be a good place to start. And I was majoring in hospitality, which is where I was working in at the moment. So I went in hospitality for a few years and I was working there maybe about 10 or so years. And then I just wanted a change. I was getting a little bit tired of working nights and I was just looking at what other jobs are out there and I applied to be a dental assistant. I had no experience. I've never thought of doing it seriously before, but when I started, I sort of just knew it was what I wanted to do. And then I applied for Open Foundation and then Bachelor of Oral Health, and hopefully be graduating in a few years and can continue in that career.
So after school, I think I graduated in 2016 and I took a few years off and worked a bit and travelled a bit and kind of had to think about it. And I wasn't honestly considering going to uni at that time. And then I decided to go to TAFE to get a new ATAR because my high school ATAR wasn't good enough to get into much. So I did that, and in that time, maybe after school finished, I kind of got into exercise a lot, and I was kind of interested in how nutrition can be manipulated for performance. And yeah, had a quick look into it and ended up at UOW. So yeah, that's how that happened.
Wollongong is an amazing uni, and also they have a very specific nutrition and dietetics course where you actually don't have to start with a Bachelor of Science or nutrition and then do a master's in dietetics. If you, I guess, leave school with a certain ATAR score or something like that that you work towards, and you are granted access to studying just the nutrition dietetics honours degree, it is a lot more smoother process. It was quite important for me to achieve that score. Obviously, if I didn't, there are always other options. So I believe UNSW, I'm sure, does one, and Sydney, University of Sydney also does a course in like a Bachelor of Nutrition, and then you would do your master's in dietetics. And so you could definitely go through that route. But I guess, yeah, so with the careers counselor, I was looking at sort of my current academics and how that was going to align me with potentially getting into the degree. And also, yeah, the duration of study was definitely something I was looking at. And I guess the uni itself, what it had to offer, uni life, and I guess the individual breakdown of the subjects in the course. I guess it just sounded very appealing to me and it made me want to work to get that degree.
I definitely researched a lot into it, looking through handbooks, going on open days and doing university tours, just comparing each of the degrees, asking my careers advisor and going through those processes. I did compare universities a lot, but I found that Newcastle had the lifestyle, the location, and the course that I wanted. So that's how I chose to come here.
So I researched the degree once I decided that I wanted to work in the dental career long term. I researched the courses on getting into the dental industry, and because I hadn't got an ATAR, I looked at what were the different pathways to get in, and that's how I found Open Foundation, which I wanted to do because that was my goal, to get into the Bachelor of Oral Health. So it was sort of a little bit intertwined. I did Open Foundations with the goal of getting into the oral health program in mind, and I luckily did.
I pretty much knew I wanted to go to Wollongong because that's where my girlfriend was, and I had a fair few friends who had moved here, and it looked nice. It was a good proximity to where I lived. So I kind of just went through the website and went through pretty much every degree, or roughly every degree or every sect, and worked through them and kind of narrowed it down to a couple. It ended up being psychology or nutrition. And I went with nutrition. I just knew I had a general interest in health and fitness, and I remember from high school not really being interested in PDHPE. So I knew I didn't want to do sports science kind of thing. So I guess nutrition was the logical step. I didn't really look at the course details too much in terms of like semester by semester breakdown, but I just read the overview and it seemed, like the best fit, I guess.
I actually did. I went to a couple in Sydney because obviously I am from Sydney and I'm living here now because of COVID. My plan was tossing up whether I wanted to be here or if I wanted to move to Wollongong for a new start. And so I guess that was a bit of a challenge because I was sort of tossing and turning whether I wanted to stay here or go there, and that was a big decision. So I guess I did definitely go to a couple of open days and sort of see my options, and I was looking at sort of naturopathy a little bit and then what I could dip into in Sydney, and it just didn't sort of all tick the boxes, and there was always something that was a little bit limiting. So I guess each sort of path you take will have its perks and weaknesses. I decided that sort of making the leap and going there and sort of experiencing the ultimate degree that I wanted to was worth my time.
Throughout year 11 and 12, I went to many open days to kind of see the campuses, along with asking more personal questions about the courses I was looking into. I went to ones around my local area, and then I also went to the Newcastle open day.
No, I didn't actually. I went to an open day in year 10, but at that point I was looking at pretty much just engineering, I think, and that didn't pay out in the end. I lost interest in that idea. And not really, no. I had friends that were at UAW because, as I graduated in 2016, a few friends were already quite a way in. And so I talked to them a bit about how the uni was in general, but I didn't contact anyone about the course specifically.
Well, quite simple. I guess, as I mentioned before, I did have a careers counselor. So everything was very, brought to our attention, and we were kind of definitely working together to sort of see what I could achieve with it. But I guess when I was applying for the unis, I was very set in kind of what I wanted to do. So I didn't have many options. So I guess when applying, I actually only did apply for University of Wollongong and this degree, although it was quite risky in terms of academically very high to achieve. I ensured and I sort of promised myself that that was something I really wanted. If I were to sort of be maybe not as sure in the direction I wanted to, I would definitely apply to a whole array. But in my specific circumstance, I was very much drawn in by the degree, and I was very set in my way to achieve what I wanted to. So I found the application process quite simple in my experience, because I was kind of, sort of going in one direction, and I kind of knew where I was going.
Although it was quite daunting, the amount of paperwork and kind of choosing what you're going to be doing in the future, I definitely think having people around me that was like quite supportive and being able to quickly ring up. I think I rang up like 10 times asking questions on how to apply to things, how to change my answers, how to change my preferences. So it definitely was very daunting, but at the same time, there's so many ways to ask those questions and people around that have done it that can help you.
I found it really easy to apply for Open Foundations. It was the difficult side was, I guess, just studying while I was still working full time as a dental assistant, but finding the program was it was a really easy process, and I applied online. And once I finished that program, it was then again a really easy process to apply for the Bachelor Oral Health. And because I got the marks to get into that course, it wasn't too difficult. I know some other people had to sort of do another course in between and then try and transfer into the oral health. So yeah, but from my experience, it was really easy. I guess the process itself, studying was not easy, but I got it done.
The application process was really easy. I finished my TAFE degree and sent off my marks, and yeah, they got back to me pretty quick. Yeah, it was very self-explanatory and quite easy. Yeah.
Before I started my current course, I knew it was going to be quite a hectic degree, because I had known a couple of people that had done it 2 years ahead of me or a year ahead of me. So I was aware that it was going to be quite an intense degree itself. So I'd be lying if I said I wasn't quite nervous for that aspect of my degree. But also, when I decided to make the leap and move to Wollongong, I was very excited about the uni life. I was very excited to meet new people, because obviously I've been living in Sydney my whole life. So it was great to sort of be able to pick up and go somewhere else and just sort of start something a little bit fresh and new. And so I thought it was going to be very hectic in terms of, the parties and sort of, fun uni life and going out to dinners and meeting new people and, sort of having new uni on campus experiences where you do sporting and you go to societies, and it's all very new and exciting. I guess that's influenced through like the media and shows and stuff like that, where you see universities. But that very much changed because I was only at uni for about like a month or 2 months before COVID sort of took over in my first semester. So it was quite different. I had sort of I moved in a month before my uni started. So I sort of had that sort of adjustment period. I met some lovely people that I still talk to now. I had a great sort of initial first insight into it, but that sort of ended very soon when I had to move back because of COVID, and a lot of the things that I was expecting didn't really take place. So that was quite challenging to sort of accept and sort of move past.
Newcastle Uni was a massive change for me. I'm from a small town where there was only 15 kids in my year, and so moving to a place where there's 500 people in one lecture was a massive change for me. I honestly thought it was just going to be like normal school, a 9 to 3, 9 to 4 type thing where you'd just be in class writing all the time, listening to a teacher talk and all that kind of thing. I thought it would, pretty much just be like high school.
Well, I guess because it's my second degree, I sort of knew I wasn't surprised by it wasn't like a shock transition. It's not I didn't go from high school straight into uni, and I didn't do that the first time either. I was already out of high school for 1 or 2 years, and then I applied for the Bachelor of Oral sorry, I applied for the business management degree. And I guess it was just a little bit different because I'm older now. I was 19 when I started that course, and now I'm 28, and I was 27 when I started the Bachelor of Oral Health, and 26 when I started Open Foundation. So I guess I was just at a different place. I wasn't really looking to do have the same college experience I was when I was younger, I guess because I felt like I already had. So I was really more just focused on the studies and my career.
I wasn't sure because I didn't really enjoy high school and I didn't put much effort in at high school. So I wasn't sure how hard uni was going to be or what I'd have to do or what I'd have to improve my skills in. What I thought of it, I thought, well, I guess it was weird because COVID pretty much hit as soon as I started. So I had 3 weeks on campus and then it all went remote. So I guess any kind of ideas or preconceived ideas about what uni would be, I didn't really get to experience. So yeah, it's a bit hard to answer that, I guess. Because yeah, I never really showed myself in high school that I could do well academically. It was a bit of a, oh no, I've gotten into this through TAFE. Am I going to be able to like perform on the level required to do well or pass uni? And yeah, I was pleasantly surprised that if you put in the time, it's all very manageable. It's pretty much all about how much time you're prepared to put in and how many times you're prepared to go over things you don't quite understand and keeping on top of just doing everything for that week in the week and getting a head start on assignments. So it's pretty much, yeah, if you've got a good work ethic and you're prepared to you put a lot of time into it, even in the harder degrees, you can do quite well, I think. Yeah, it's definitely easier than school because you've chosen it and it's going to be financially a burden if you do the degree and don't come out with some kind of accreditation that's going to allow you to work. So it's very much like I've chosen to be here. I could be working at the moment and making money. So while I'm here, I'm going to knuckle down and get the most out of this. And it also helps because, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, so I was aware that the first 2 years of my degree, because it is a 4-year degree with an honours year where I do my thesis in my 4th year, the first 2 years are very much science. So chemistry basis, you kind of do your fundamentals in anatomy, chemistry, biology, which is quite overwhelming. I think you sort of don't anticipate how much work you really need to put in. And I guess that measure of how much you put in is sort of how much you want to get out. I think the first year, because I didn't really have that balance of like uni and sort of a social life in terms of uni as well, was very much overwhelmed and I spent a lot of my time doing uni. It's very different to school in the sense that in school you can learn pretty much all the content and be prepared, but with uni there is a lot more than what you can handle and you really do have to select and choose the most vital information and really understand the best study methods for you because there is a lot of content. And the first semester I did really try my hardest to learn every single thing. It is possible, but it is at the expense that you will not have a lot of free time. Through these past 2 years, I very much changed how I sort of approach uni. And not drastically, I think I've still got 2 more years where it probably will change as well. But compared to my first semester to being in my last semester in my second year, I very much changed my outlook because I sort of understood sort of more of a balance. And I think you're very overwhelmed in the first semester where you feel like you need to have it all and you need to know it all. And there is a lot of really sophisticated information coming your way. So I think it's just important to sit down with yourself and understand your study skills and just sort of selectively go about studying and finding that balance initially. I think it would have been a much more beneficial process doing that earlier on than later on. But in my first 2 years, yes, it was mainly just basis. It wasn't as driven towards nutrition and dietetics as much as I wanted. But then again, you can't always selectively choose to have the final outcome as what you learn first. It was important for me to learn all the fundamentals and the chemistry and the biochemistry and everything like that first, because that is the fundamentals and the basis for going into nutrition and dietetics. So you sort of have to understand, even though it is quite challenging and might not be directly what you want to practice when you go out of uni, you have to internalize those thoughts and stick with where you're going if it's truly what you want to, set out to do after university.
I definitely don't think I could have been more wrong in my opinion of uni. It's very flexible, it's very accommodating to your circumstances. It is a lot of work, a bit more than I thought, but at the same time, there's a lot more resources. And because you're only studying the things you pick, it's kind of a lot easier to do that work and to study and do your assessments because it's stuff you're interested in and it's stuff that you're going to be doing for the rest of your life or for this part of your career. So I think the major difference I noticed was I was studying more, doing more work, and I was doing it when I wanted to do it, and I was doing it about stuff that I was interested in. In my degree, I think it was definitely not what I was expecting. I was expecting a lot more just like book work, but a lot of it is practical hands-on stuff, which is definitely a good thing because that's how I'm better at learning. Having those real experiences and having examples and case studies and practicals and tutorials and labs where you can go and actually do what you're learning. It's not just writing down notes and memorizing them. It's actually putting what you're going to use to use.
It's definitely been a different experience. I guess it's mostly different due to COVID, though. I don't think anyone saw that coming. There's no way to really plan for that. So the experience has been completely different. I was, on campus for my entire degree the first time around when I was doing about business management, and now with oral health, I actually deferred a year because of COVID and because of where I was living and the difficulty of getting to class. And right now, there are no on-campus classes. It's all online. So it's obviously a lot different. But I have enjoyed having the classes where you can do it online, just being online. So I've had 2 of those so far. And yeah, I don't mind having sort of a mix, like some classes online and some classes on campus. But yeah, unfortunately, it's just not possible for all of them. So I wouldn't say it's all negative or all positive. It's just different, and it can be done for some. And if it can be done, then I find it a lot easier as a student to just do it in your own time and do it all online and know you can just do it from home rather than go all the way in.
Yeah, to a degree. I've realised it is manageable, even doing like a more involved science, and it is just about how much time you put in. I guess the only negative about not being on campus, where there's a few, is you don't get to meet people. I was really hoping to, because I guess obviously you don't meet many people straight out of school living in your hometown. It's kind of the same mates, which is great, but I was expecting to make some new friends up here. But being remote kind of disallowed that. And also the inability to do live practicals is kind of tricky because it's like, if this continues, I'm going to be a fully qualified dietitian who's done 2 practicals, and it's going to be a bit daunting not having that base of skill to go into the working environment with, I guess.
As I said, I'm in my second year. So my first year mainly consisted of foundational chemistry. And then I also did fundamental concepts of food and nutrition, which was lovely. It was really amazing to see that I had an initial burst of what I wanted. I was kind of scared that I was going to be waiting for the whole time until the last year, but it was wonderful to sort of have that little fundamental concepts introduction initially. It really kept me going through the chemistry and everything like that. And I also had sort of human structure and function was which was quite in depth. It's, the whole anatomy of the human body. So that was quite an intense, but really rewarding subject to really understand what's going on inside your body and how it's working. And then I also had sort of a scientific literacy. So always in the semesters, you've got sort of like a subject which deals with sort of scientific literacy and how you sort of work with Excel and different sort of platforms to sort of gear you up for, I guess, essentially your thesis year, where you're doing a lot of research and it's just sort of preparing you for those sort of own projects. If I go into my second year, we sort of have more biochemistry, and you've got sort of an upgrade on what you did in your first year. So I guess, as you can sort of picture it, is that it's a building block. So they start you off in your fundamentals, and then you go on to an upper level. So you're really just sort of building on what you did the semester before. Having my notes from last year could help me this semester. So it's so important to sort of see the value in what you're doing currently, and don't just think that you're doing this for this semester and then it's going. It all builds on one another. And so just keeping that in mind is quite important. And then I guess when you go into your second year, you're more so going into sort of the energy systems and focusing more on how mechanisms interact. This semester, it has more so been focused on sort of new ideologies, and that has been quite different from the previous 3 semesters that I've encountered, where I am focusing on biostatistics, which is very much different, and I haven't done anything like that in the past 3 semesters. You will be doing, sort of control mechanisms of physiology, and you'll be doing pathophysiology as well in your second year at the end, alongside that biostatistics. And so I guess in the first 2 years, you will be doing 4 subjects per semester, which is not set in stone. You can definitely change it up. So you can, sort of lengthen out your degree. If you feel quite overwhelmed, you can go do 3 subjects a semester and sort of change it up like that if you choose. I have stuck with 4 subjects a semester, and if I'm going to be honest, it hasn't left me much room for other things in sort of my personal life in terms of working and everything like that. It is it's, as it says, a full-time degree. If you want to sort of change that up for you and it doesn't suit your lifestyle, you can definitely do 3 subjects a semester and lengthen out your degree. It's not, if you haven't got a time limit, then it's definitely something that you can do if you feel overwhelmed. But I guess if you get into year 3 and 4, it changes quite a lot, because you transition to that nutrition dietetics focus and you go into dietetics care 1 and dietetics care 2. And then in your year 4, you've still got those practical you've got that practical subject, but you've also got your thesis.
I get this question actually more than you might think. How I explain it is like an OT. If you were like in a car crash and you hurt your arm, just say a physio might help you use it until there's no more pain, but an OT will help you get back to your daily life. So we might help you learn to write again, or how to pick up your utensils, or how to just get back to the goals that you want to get back to, how to get back to work, how to get back to playing with your kids, that kind of thing. And then the younger versions of pediatric kind of OT, if you're unable to do a certain movement or something, an OT will help with that. So I know when I was younger, I didn't know how to jump. My muscles just didn't know how to do it. And so I went to an OT and they taught me how to jump. So in my first year of uni, the first semester was mainly based around your biology, learning your anatomy and all that kind of thing. But you also have this semester and a little bit of last semester, like your OT practices and your group processing, which is teaching you how to work within a team, work with other allied health professionals, and how to communicate with patients and relate to them and treat them.
Oral health, I wish I could think of the definition they gave us in class, but I guess it's just a state of well-being and absence of any disease is sort of the official terminology. But yeah, it's basically just having good oral hygiene and not having any decay, or even you can think of the more superficial things, and just when it comes to orthodontics and having a smile that makes you happy, it's all sort of encompassing. It's not just about not having decay, it's about being happy with your smile and not having bad breath. It's about a lot of things, I guess, and that's why there's so many different careers you can work in and so many different specialists. And it's not just dentists, it's oral health therapists, it's orthodontics, it's periodontics, it's a lot of things that I didn't really know existed until I started working in the dental industry, and they all exist for a reason, and that's because it's all important to oral health, really. So most of the oral health subjects are oral health classes. So it's specifically about oral health. And then I've also had some hubs classes, which is just we did anatomy and biology, and then head and neck anatomy specifically we're doing this semester. And that's been a bit of adjustment to me because I don't have a lot of science background. I didn't do that in high school, so that's all new to me. But definitely enjoy the oral health specific subjects the most because that's the things that are going to help me most in my career. So I've definitely heard from dentists I've worked with that I've talked about, my studies and what I want to do. They've said that what a dentist in particular said that she was a little envious that it sounds like we do a lot more practical work in our course, whereas in dentistry is a lot more of the theory side, it makes sense because they have to cover their scope of practice is a lot wider, so they have to learn a lot more theory, whereas our scope of practice is a little bit more limited and we're focused more on cleaning and things like that. We do fillings, but we don't have such a wide scope as dentists do. But I would say definitely the practical side, from what I've heard, we get a lot more experience before we go out and graduate and start practicing. So I'm definitely happy about that because
So first year was kind of generalized anatomy, chemistry, and a little bit of biology, which was interesting enough, but it wasn't really specific to nutrition anyway. It was kind of generalized, and it was interesting, but it felt a bit like, why am I doing all this? It kind of felt a bit like a fluff to the point that it didn't really relate to nutrition. But second year, again, same subjects, biology, anatomy, and chemistry, mainly biochemistry, kind of combining the two. That's been much more interesting, and it's become much more nutrition centric, and it's been much more visible how you could apply what you're learning to what your profession will eventually be. So yeah, second year's been great so far. This semester we're doing the biochemistry of energy and metabolism, which is kind of how food is broken down and uses energy, and how your body mobilizes its energy reserves in fat and protein, muscle stores, and kind of how we use that to run and produce energy. So that's been really interesting and obviously very relevant to my course.
Uni life has been interesting for me so far. I guess, as I've mentioned, that I had started uni in the first semester and COVID had hit. So it's been quite an uncertain first 2 years. Generally, personally, and also in terms of uni, it's been very up and down. And I have had sort of snippets of going back and everything being normal, and then sort of it shutting off again and having nothing at all. I guess I was very lucky in a sense that I met a few people when I went down there for my first couple of months. And I still talk to some of them quite frequently, but I also just sometimes you meet people online, and it's become very good in that sense that group chats have been created and you can just chat to people if you need help or you want to talk. So that's been really good, and I have developed quite a few friendships from that.
So I'm in my second year of uni. Last year I did a Bachelor of Science, and this year I'm doing a Bachelor of Occupational Therapy. And my experience on uni has been quite impacted by COVID. A lot of it has been online, but anything I have done face to face, it's been quite like a personal experience. Getting to know your tutors, getting to know your lecturers and everything. It's definitely very full on. There is a lot of like just people everywhere if you're not used to that. But it's also really comforting because everyone seems to be so friendly. They'll help if you are like me and you can never figure out how to use printers. you'd be surprised how many people will actually help you out. And just being on campus is definitely different, but it's like a nice different. You're able to just the amount of people you meet on uni is crazy. The amount of people, like, well, some of my best friends I met in the laundromat or I met lining up for a coffee. You seem to always walk past someone that you know or have met somewhere. Yeah.
So, very limited, but by choice. As I said, this is my second degree, so I'm really just trying to focus on my studies and not so much the social aspect. But I have done some of the quizzes on campus, and they can be fun just when you're eating and relaxing between classes. But for me, that's about it.
Well, there's been minimal uni interaction, I guess. Like you have breakout rooms and group assignments online, but I feel like you lack the human connection when you're trying to meet someone through a camera on Zoom. So I haven't really built any solid connections through my course. I live with mates from home, luckily, so I've got that social outlet all the time. So I can't imagine having to live by yourself and study during the pandemic. That'd be really tricky. But I've been lucky that I can still see my friends on a daily basis. But yeah, definitely in the future, looking forward to definitely going to more events around the uni and hopefully interacting and making friendships with people in my degree and outside my degree.
Oh, it's a challenging one. I think the best part about being a uni student is that it kind of is a lot on your own accord. Very different to school life where you go into school, you have your 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. or around those times where you see people certain times and you have certain subjects and it's all very set in stone. Uni is very malleable in that sense. You have a lot more freedom. It's a lot more self-driven, which I think I thrive off because I am quite a self-motivated person. And it's totally fine if you're not, because also people at uni are there to support you. Maybe not so much hand-holding like in school, but you do have the extra support. And I have experienced a great deal of that in my first 2 years. I love the fact that I can sort of work at my own pace and I can sort of select sort of a calendar that works for me and that I can fit in other things into my personal life and take some time out. So I think I love the flexibility, and I love that I'm starting to love that you can sort of really understand the background to things. It's less of a surface level. They're treating you more like adults as you are, but you're able to really investigate sort of the complexity behind topics. You really expand your knowledge and reach your maximum that you really didn't think was there. So I think that's really been rewarding for me, is that each semester I felt, I'm really challenged. I really can't do much more than this, but surprising to me, I'm able to get through it, and I'm able to sort of get through each semester and leave it with a whole heap of more knowledge. And so I find that part quite rewarding, a mixture between being able to have a bit more flexibility in your life and also really learning more than you think you can.
Apart from the cheaper movie tickets and the extra perks, I think the best thing about being a uni student is just that this is the time where you're kind of putting yourself in control of your life. You get to choose what you study, what you do throughout the day, throughout the week. You get to choose who you hang out with, who you talk to, how you do things. I think that independence and that newfound independence is a very good thing about being a university student.
Yeah, I guess my favorite part of the course is getting the practical experience in the clinic. Unfortunately, haven't been able to do a lot, but from what we have done, it's really good to get that experience. Working as a dental assistant, it's not really new to me, but being the operator is a lot different to being the assistant. So being able to work in the clinic has been great and start doing exams. And I like that, from the first semester, you're actually doing practical work. It's not just theory. So that's probably my favorite part.
The best part about being at uni, I guess, just learning. the inability to socialise due to the lockdown. It kind of takes away that aspect of uni. So yeah, just learning about something that I'm interested in, and at the same time, it's going to progress to something that will sustain me financially. So I guess it's a nice payoff and kind of two birds with one stone. The only reason I ended up going to uni really is because I didn't want to work a job that I'm not going to enjoy. So I figure you're going to be working for the next 4 years, you might as well enjoy it. So yeah, 4 years learning something that I'm interested in, yeah, it's going to benefit me long term. That's probably the most enjoyable part of it, even though it's not really tangible at the moment or palpable. But yeah, that knowledge is nice.
I definitely have changed my thinking around certain things. And as I've developed personally and also in my education and academically, I have definitely seen parts of me that would sort of ignite other directions as well. Like, as I said, I am a personal trainer, so I wouldn't really swap out my nutrition degree and fall back on that. But I am also very much into psychology. I have sort of seen myself more and more involved in that sort of area of life, and I love the complexity of it, and it very much does work with my current degree. So it is something I have thought about in terms of maybe adding on or seeing how I can sort of manipulate it to sort of involve that aspect.
So I was in a really small school with a really small cohort, and that made it quite difficult to get a very high ATAR to get into OT, and they had quite limited numbers. And so I wasn't able to get into that, but I went to a open day and talked to a student ambassador, and they showed me another pathway of doing a science degree first, only doing OT subjects, and then transferring into OT for my second year. And that's kind of allowed me to do a lot of my science subjects in my first year. And now I only have 3 units rather than 4 units, which has eased the workload. I definitely think it was a good move for me. It's definitely taken a lot of pressure off having that one less subject, and it allowed me to focus on those harder subjects last year. I think I will stick with OT. I'm excited to go on my pracs in a couple weeks, kind of just see what it's like out there in like the real world, I guess. But yeah, so far I think I will stick with it.
So I definitely don't want to change my career path. I'm every time, going through the oral health specific classes are just more reassurance that this is what's going to be right for me, and it's definitely what I want to do. So as in terms to like studying later on, I could definitely see myself doing more courses, but definitely dental related. I definitely want to stay in this career. I don't know what sort of what that might look like in the future. Right now, I'm happy with graduating and working as an oral health therapist, but I know a lot of the lecturers have said that they started off doing that and they've gone into research and other things. So that's definitely something I want to keep in mind. But I'm definitely happy with the career path that I'm taking.
At this point, no, I've had no thoughts of changing course. I'm enjoying my course so far, and I feel like it'd be a shame to come halfway through and then change your mind. But it does seem that a lot of people do change their mind, maybe because they jump into it straight out of school, and having a bit of a break may have been useful for me to really think over what I want to do.
Once I do finish my degree, which I believe will have really pushed me, I think my final year, my research project, I haven't fully, created. I haven't thought about exactly what I'm going to research and write my thesis on, even though I have got some ideas of what interests me currently. I do think that after I finish my degree, it will be a great opportunity for me to take some time off before you go into sort of something that's going to start up your career and move you from place to place. I think having that time to break, especially because I had that before I started my degree, I took a year off and went traveling all around the world. And that was important for me to understand that I loved the direction I was going in. And I was, sort of scared that I was going to change from nutrition. Like, what if I, travel and I'm like, oh, it's not for me. I want to go into sort of business or something completely different. But it reaffirmed to me that it was what I was wanting to do. And then sort of focus on those opportunities. I mean, assuming that I may potentially get an opportunity straight after I finish, it might be something I may have to think about if traveling is worth sort of putting that opportunity on hold. I'll definitely be working underneath people in hospitals if I decide to go the dietetics pathway initially, or working under some nutritionists and those sort of health and well-being focused companies. And then slowly, hopefully, a long-term goal would be to open my own practice and sort of have a whole lot of very well qualified allied health professionals in one room, and sort of marry the personal training, the nutritionists, the dietetics, physiotherapists, like bringing all that sort of knowledge to people.
My hopes and dreams have, I think they've actually changed quite dramatically once I've come to uni. I always hoped to go out and just go to a big city or go somewhere where I can really just show my skills. But now that I've started, I've really become passionate about going to the people less fortunate than I am. So I think one of my dreams is to go maybe overseas and help people that are less fortunate than I am, or to even go to some really rural areas that require some assistance in this field that they may not be able to get. I think that's something I'm definitely looking into for a couple of years after I graduate.
So I know that when I finish at the moment, I definitely am excited to start practicing as an oral health therapist, and then I'm open to other studies later on. But yeah, right now it's definitely what I want to do, and I'm happy that I'm enjoying the course and it's not like a chore for me, because the business side definitely was when I was doing it. And even though I decided halfway through I didn't want to do it anymore, I kind of just made myself finish because I don't like to quit things. But I'm happy that that's not the case this time around. So once I graduate, I will be able to work as an oral health therapist, but there's other opportunities. So I currently work as a dental assistant right now, but that's something you could also do. You could go on to do other studies. I know the teachers we've talked about have said they've gone into research. They've also talked about their experience working in both the public and the private sector, and not just working in a team of dentists, but working specifically for specialists. So there's a lot of different opportunities. And I would probably like to start off in the public sector, but I'd be open to anything really. But yeah, it's great that you graduate being able to work straight away as an oral health therapist.
I'd love to do athlete nutrition. Ideally, I'd love to work with any sporting team. I think it'd be really interesting, especially working with athletes, seeing if, no matter how incremental, what improvements of performance you can get just through their nutrition. And yeah, that's the goal at the end of the day. So fingers crossed for that.
When you're deciding what you're doing in terms of school, it wasn't fundamental for me to sort of pick subjects that directly relate to my degree. And quite frankly, I actually didn't do sciences. I didn't do those sort of subjects that directly align with what my degree is. And I guess me, and as I've tried to express, is that I'm quite a hardworking person. And so I knew that even though I didn't do that in my end of high school HSE life, that I was going to work really hard to ensure that I would be able to keep up and have that knowledge. So I guess if you're finishing school and you're selecting your subjects and things like that, it is not fundamental to, unless it's a prerequisite, but it's not essential to do every single thing that is aligned with your degree. It's okay if you prefer doing visual arts like I did, and PDHP and business and different things. It's okay that you do that in your HSE year. It's not going to be the be all and end all if you didn't do chemistry. But if you're not someone who really wants to push themselves and teach yourself, you're going to have to do a lot of teaching if you haven't done that sort of foundations. You kind of want to ensure that you're setting yourself up for the best outcome. So if you're not certain that you're going to sort of push yourself in that respect, for the first year with all those new subjects, if you haven't done them, then I would say selecting subjects that will sort of give you that little bit of foundation before you start your degree. If you're knowledgeable of what exactly you want to do, then I think that would be a great start.
I think quite a lot of people are quite scared of coming to university as it's such a big change from their current life in high school or in their hometown with their family. But I think that there's so many courses, there's so many different opportunities at uni that if you don't know what you're doing, you can always start in something, find what you're passionate in and change. There's always like different ways to find what you're passionate in, and you can always do electives or do like change your degree to suit what kind of career you want. There's no set pathway in a university.
Well, I don't know about most courses, but I definitely say for oral health, the best thing you could do is to start working as a dental assistant if you can, or that's definitely the number one. Even a lot of the lecturers say to us that the best experience you can get is to start working in the industry alongside your studies if you haven't already. So a lot of the people in the oral health program are dental assistants or have worked in the dental field. So it's definitely the best thing you can do because it's not easy work, and it's definitely not for everyone.
UAC represents many institutions across New South Wales and the ACT. The universities featured in today's webinar are a small selection of the many institutions which offer the courses discussed today. Students should research all university offerings so they can make informed decisions regarding their future study.